Okay, good morning. I'm talking to John Bianchi at North American Mortgage, and it's right at the end, last day in August, end of the summer in the year 2001. Good morning, John.
Good morning, John. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Look, I thought before, I don't know too much about you, other than you rank way up there on the mortgage originator list. I think last year number 23. Doing about 500 loans and 93 million. I also know that you've already surpassed over 100 million, and you're only halfway through the year. So you're having obviously a phenomenal year. Beyond that, I don't know too much. I do know you have a very unusual thing that we're going to be talking about, where you're kind of a combination loan officer, branch manager, and effective regional manager. And I do want to explore that concept. I find that's very interesting. But before we actually even get into that part, I always start off the same way with everybody and asking everybody where they came from and grew up and how they kind of wormed their way into the business. So why don't we start there?
Well, I was born and raised in San Diego, California. Been here my entire life, and had an interesting childhood. You know, grew up on food stamps, welfare. Had a 16-year-old mother and no father. We lived, the hard road. And then I took my, junior college years and working as a dishwasher, and that took about 5 years. So I kind of graduated about 8 years after
the fact.
College. I had a football dream, playing Fridays, Saturdays, and hopefully to play Sundays. And after college, that was the end of the football. And then I finally graduated and went out with my friends. And at the time, I was working at Nordstrom selling ladies' shoes. So I started to get a little bit of that.
I don't know if that's good or bad. I think that one.
Well, Nordstrom's, really prided themselves on sales training and
yes,
and customer service, and I really learned a lot of customer service at Nordstrom.
Actually, you're right. I was laughing because I'm thinking that's an easy way to meet girls, but you're right. They're very, very big on service level, and I'm sure you took a lot from it. So
absolutely. I worked at Nordstrom's and went out with my friends. We all went to a bar, and I said, now that I've graduated, I got to think about, what to do in life, because it seems like you never think it's ever going to end. School's going to be an ongoing thing. And finally, we sat down, and I had stockbrokers, insurance agents, and everyone out with me, and I said, well, what have you all made? These are really close friends. And so they kind of told me what they made year to date, and then the girl who was the mortgage lender, showed me her paycheck, and I said, wow. That's what I want to do.
So you're money driven at an early age.
Well, yeah, and you kind of, when you think about doing something, you always do kind of a comparison. Personally you compare yourself to the person. And I looked at all my friends, and I knew, the ones that were smarter, the ones that could talk better, the ones that were more articulate. And I knew this girl real well, and I said, gosh, she can do it, I can do it. I know, all of her strengths and weaknesses. And that's why I made the decision to get in the business, not only the money, but I felt that it's something I could do. And so I interviewed with AccuBank Mortgage. This was the company originally, and you were
the top producer, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was a tough interview. It was we're not hiring, we don't have any spots, and he left me in the lobby for like an hour and a half. And when he met with me, he said that was part of the test. If you'll sit there an hour and a half before I meet with you, and we had an appointment. I just sat there until he brought me in.
Gee, this sounds like a Korean prisoner of war camp.
Oh, it was definitely, my training days were definitely very regimented. I was told to go home many times and change my clothes, and you don't wear that. You can't come in the office. You need to be in the field. I won't let you in the office. The pager's going off at 4 a.m. and it says, wake up. It was just like Wall Street, and motivational quotes at 4 a.m. I mean, if you're not ready for that, it's very difficult. And I wouldn't do that now, but the training that I went through was very intense, and it was good. It was good. It prepared me for the business.
Right. And sometimes I think some people, I'm not saying you did, everybody's different, but some people really like that kind of discipline, and they really take to it. I was at a small dinner party a couple nights ago and met a guy who I've known for years, who's just retiring as an insurance executive, owns quite a large company, and he was talking about his days in Paris Island and the Marines. And what was surprising, we were all talking war stories and everything, and he was talking about how much he really liked it, and he loved Paris Island and the discipline and everything, and how it prepared him in the future life. So I think there's a place for that.
Yeah, I really do. I really like the discipline, and I try to run my operation that way. Not as intense, but, I have designated times for, the meetings. I have everybody on a time blocking schedule. I believe in that, and it's interesting because I feel that most mortgage brokers versus bankers seem to be more free spirits. They want to wear casual clothes every day, work out of their house. It's not quite the same intensity. I encourage the people in my office to dress professional, wear a suit every day, wear a tie every day, look the part, because unbelievably, there's very few people in our industry that are, extremely professional. You go out in the field and they're not wearing suits, they're not wearing ties. They don't look like mortgage bankers. They look like, it's casual day every day.
I'd like to get back onto that, but I actually want to do a little bit of a curve here and just kind of loop back to your days. What year did you actually start producing? And I wonder if you just spend a little bit of time talking about, how you started and what made you so successful during that period of time. I'm sure you didn't start off that way, but that's the journey I want to talk about.
Well, I got in the business in 1991. In the first year of the business, the rates were a little over 10%.
Right.
I didn't know any better. And so I was happy to do a few refinances with, friends and relatives just to start out. And probably within about 8 months to a year, I was doing $1 million a month. And, that was, pretty significant when you're a brand new loan officer. So I'm
assuming concentrating on realtors.
Yeah, that was basically all I was trained to do.
Okay.
All right. I was trained to, here's what you're going to do Monday through Friday. This is what you're going to do on Saturdays. This is what you're going to do on Sundays. So I worked just about every day of the week, day and night, and concentrated all my efforts on realtors. And it really paid off because within a year I had landed some, fairly big producers and became, the top producer in my office within less than 2 years. Outperformed everyone who had been there for, in the business 5-10 years.
Why let me stop you there and interject. Why is that? I mean, what reasons do you ascribe to that? Because I think one of the things we talk about in these sessions, and I do like to encourage people that we try and keep away from methods and practices of companies and talk about ideas per se. So, what is it that you did that set you apart from the others that people could take as a lesson here?
I try to think of two things. Not only then and today, that makes one person different than another. And I'll sit here and I'll train loan officers, and I don't know why some succeed and some don't, but I thought of two things. One thing is this, I had a very, growing up, I played sports, so I was very competitive.
Okay.
The sports ended for me, and so the discipline, in athletics, I carried on to the business world, and it really became competitive for me. And it still is today. I mean, one of the things that drives me every day is just wanting to succeed, wanting to win. It's not necessarily the money anymore. It's just the game. I want to be number one. I want to do as much as I can in my company. So I'm a very competitive person. It's like I can't work out on a treadmill by myself. I have to be competing to exercise. So the same thing in business. I couldn't be a broker working out of my house. I have to be competing within an organization to be successful.
Yeah,
so I like the challenge. I like that. And really the success just came from doing everything I was told consistently. I mean, you can give all the tools to someone, but if they don't implement them on a daily basis and continue to do them, they won't be successful. I've told everybody that I've trained that if you do the exact same things I did, regardless of my personality or what I know, you will be successful. I mean, if you just follow the steps. And what I find is people don't do it. They procrastinate. They take shortcuts. I was going to do my calls this Friday. I'll blow it off. I'm going to go to the river. They're just not committed. And if you commit to doing all those things, I mean, you're going to get the results.
So you think
that was one of the things. The other thing that keeps me successful now, because, at that time I was a hungry lion. And so, I needed the money.
You're a fat, rich lion.
When you have no income coming in, you're very hungry. Now people ask me, well, how, you're making all this money, you have all these offices, what drives you now when you already have the money? And I think that is fear. It's kind of an unusual thing, but people say, how does fear drive you? I said, every day I wake up, and that old saying, the lion and was it the gazelle in Africa? The same thing. I wake up every morning and I am fearful that I'm not doing enough to be successful.
I think you don't have to be a Freudian analyst or a Jungian or whatever you to be to figure out that a lot of that probably comes from your childhood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's why part of it to me isn't really. It's not. I don't look at every loan for the money, and you try to stay grounded. That's the most important thing to me, is staying grounded, staying humble. Never thinking I'm too good. I don't drive. I drive a truck. And everyone else is driving a Mercedes, and they're like, John, geez, why are you driving that truck? Well, I don't need to let realtors know how good I'm doing. They know, but I don't need to flaunt it out there. I need to be hungry. I mean, people want to work with people who are humble and hungry. I mean, when an appraiser comes into my office and he's begging me for business and he's got a family to feed and he's like, I just need one deal, I'm like, geez, I'd like to give him a deal, and I do. And the same thing with realtors. Realtors want to help you. If you go out there and you don't need the business, they don't necessarily want to give it to you. So I am very hungry all the time, and I'm very humble, and I never sit there and think that I can cut out the things that I did in the beginning to get the business. I still do all those things, believe it or not. And a lot of people get successful and they start eliminating, I don't need to do that for the realtor anymore. Financing details, I used to do that, but I don't need that anymore. And I learned that my realtors would call me and say, John, remember when you used to do these things for me? And I say, yeah, so that keeps me on my toes. So I still do all the things. I mean, and we'll get onto that later, but I can tell you all the things I do. There's a lot of stuff that I do that seems like it's all, menial things. But
why don't we get into that?
Okay.
I think this is a game. I think you would agree of particulars. Of as you say, you have to be consistent in those particulars, but you still have to have some sort of a methodology, some sort of a plan.
Sure. I mean, I'll pull out my little time blocking schedule right here.
Well, let's talk about that.
I do every day.
Do you think time blocking is important?
Time blocking is very important. I believe that being organized is the key to doing production. I'm super organized. Some people make fun of me because I organize their desk as I'm talking to them.
You're very anal retentive.
Absolutely. I can't even have a pillow out of place. But they sit there and I'll close. The last month I closed like 90 loans, and they're looking at me going, "Well, how did you do 90?" And I'm trying to do 10, and I'm just stressed out. And I'm doing my 90 loans, and I'm taking half a day off on Friday. And I said, it's systems. I said, you got to be organized and have a great system. And I'm super organized. And if you time block it and you organize everything, you really don't have the stress that a lot of people have, with getting their loans done and processed and closed.
Yeah, how about going a little deeper into that? I'm not sure. I understand the concept of what you're talking about, of course, but how about some, specific instances?
You mean you want to talk about the process?
Yeah, time blocking and how you go about it and what you put in your time blocks.
Well, my time blocking schedule, the first thing I do, and I learned that in my coaching class, I time block my personal life first. I went through there and I picked out all the important, days, like Friday nights are my date night with my wife. And it's scheduled, and I'm out of here by 3 o'clock. I need to go home. We have a babysitter scheduled every Friday.
Wow, that's great.
And that's our date night. You can't lose the romance in your marriage, and there's no excuses. So every Friday night I do that. Every Sunday, after church, I go to the store, and I pick up all the real estate magazines and newspapers. And out of there, interesting enough, everyone goes, why do you do that every Sunday? I go through every real estate magazine, and I read every, ad. I want to see what everyone's doing. You got to be aware of your competition. Know your competition better than yourself.
I've never heard this one. This is great.
So I read all the stuff. I go through all the competition. I cut out of the newspaper all the press releases about the realtors in my area. Monday morning, I have on my time blocking schedule to laminate all the pictures and press releases and send them to the realtors, congratulating them and 3-hole punching these laminated 8.5 by 11 presentations I put together for them to put into their folder.
This is great.
So, and then, I get realtors that call me back and say, John, no one's ever done that for me. I don't know who you are, or I've heard of you, but no, this was really neat. So I do that on a regular basis. I cut out everything and send them to the realtors after I laminate them. My Monday work schedule then will be to follow up with all the applications, and it's mostly productive activities. I try to assign a lot of the things like answering the phone and the pager and everything to my assistant. I try to do only money-making activities throughout the day. I take loan applications. And
do you take all your loan applications face-to-face?
No. What's interesting is I have really a diverse market. I have everything from the $1 million buyer all the way down to the someone buying a $100,000 FHA. So depending on the client, if it's a client that's buying a $1 million home, and I can tell by the conversation on the phone, he's a doctor, he's an attorney, he owns a company, time is of the essence, I don't need to meet you to work with you. Most of the higher-end buyers don't need to meet with you to work with you. They're not into the bonding thing. They're more into, price shopping. They're internet savvy. They're tougher buyers. I mean, the high-end market's a tough market to work.
Yeah, they're more educated.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
They call me and they say, John's referred by the realtor, and by the way, I have a financial planner, I have a personal banker, I'm in the private banking group at, XYZ Bank, and, I'll give you one of the shots at it. So it's a tough one. The other client is the move-up buyer or first-time buyer, and typically, I'm open to whatever the client wants. I don't like to go to their house anymore just because it's distracting, but we'll usually schedule it in the realtor's office. So either my office or the realtor's office. If it's the realtor's office, I do that primarily because I want other realtors to walk around and see me in there. Go, well, there's John Bianchi for the third time this week. God, he does all the business in this office. So that's another way of marketing to the realtors is when I schedule something during the day when it's busy in a real estate office. So it's either there, in person, or I just take the app by phone and have them fax me the information I need.
Do you do anything to get a little deeper into this? Do you pre-fax them stuff so you have a 1003 when you walk in, or any other little tricks you have to?
Well, a couple ways I do it. For instance, I took a deal last night, and this is one of the reasons I'm a mortgage banker. I took a deal last night, and I write it on my application, not only the date I'm taking the app, but the time, because now I'm down to hours and not necessarily days for loan approval. I took in the app at like 2:50. I took a complete app. I ran it 3DU. I called the person back, gave him approval within the hour, and I'm drawing docs this morning. He's coming in to sign, and I'm cutting a check today to fund the loan. And, of course, there's no appraisal, but I'm getting that to follow.
All right.
And so,
see, if you're a mortgage banker, you can do a little of that. Not if you're a broker.
I can do these crazy things.
Right.
And that's because the deal was falling out of escrow with another lender. They didn't have flooring in, and, I can get flooring to follow. So I stepped in and got a $650,000 deal in 24 hours.
Wow, that's great.
But now that's a phone app, that's a DU approval, and then I tell them, by the way, here's what I need you to fax me. These are your conditions. And it was very limited amount of conditions. So that would be how I typically do my phone apps. I'll just take the
how'd you get all the title work and stuff done? I'm just curious. All the title work and everything.
It was another lender who dropped the ball at the last minute. So the escrow had been open for 30 days.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
So I had everybody fax everything to me as far as the escrow and title work. So that's the phone schedule. The other one where I pre-qualify and book an app at a realtor's office, what I typically do is I'm talking to a client, I'll book an app, let's say 4 days later at the real estate office. I will run their credit with a verbal authorization over the phone. I pre-qualify them. I give them a needs list of what they need to bring to the application with them. And then I typically mail them a marketing package. Every client gets a marketing package, whether we schedule an appointment or not. And it has all about my team, all about my company, what the expectations are. I have the needs list reiterated in the package and a copy of a 1003. And so I give them instructions to please fill out the 1003 prior to our meeting and bring the items that I requested. And by the way, here's an extra copy of it. When I come to the meeting at the real estate office, they typically hand me the 1003 filled out and the items I requested. I'm basically done. I mean, I've done the app in 5 minutes.
So it's really a bonding
Yep,
thing.
It's just a bonding meeting and really going over, what their plan is, how long they're going to be in the house. Do we need to, put less down, pay off debts? It's kind of like a financial planning meeting. And seeing, how I can get them to where they want to go in life. And also doing the bonding, and we're done. I really take 5 minutes to gather the paperwork, just make sure it's what they told me on the phone, and then I put that aside. And we go straight into different programs and and how I can help them.
Yeah, I think there's a lesson for loan officers that are listening to this out there, and not just how to use your time, but how to use it in a quality fashion. In the old days, before your time, actually, probably before you were born, when I was doing this, you went in with a 10:03, and it was like you spent an hour and a half, and you ask every little question, and pull out your credit cards and stuff like that. And today, it's just so much more efficient. And you're spending that time developing the customer. And I think that's a real lesson for new people out there, that they need to use their time, smartly.
Oh, yeah, and another trick, too, is I see people sitting there in, either my office or real stuff. I see loan officers sitting there taking a nap. How old are you? Okay, and how long have you been at this address?
Yeah, right.
And what's your home address? And they're sitting here doing this for 45 minutes, wasting all that time, when truthfully, I mean, if you ask me right now, if I told you what the facts to be, I could take an app over the phone in about 2 minutes. And how I do my app is I don't ask you your work address. I don't ask you your name and social. I don't ask you all the questions that I'm able to copy off the stuff you're faxing me. See, I only need to ask certain questions, like your age, how many years of school, how long have you been in your current, residence, what's your title, how long have you worked there. I mean, I can skip through an app and just fill in the blanks, which takes about, 2 minutes, truthfully. The stuff that I ask you for, such as W-2s and pay stubs and all that, I'll be able to copy all the stuff I need to know. Your assets, I can copy all those down. Your debts, I'll get those off the credit report. I really don't need to fill out an application when I'm in front of you. It's really just asking you things that I'm not going to be able to copy off the things I've requested from you. So you can really cut down an application to just a few questions and then move on. And I don't know why people are sitting there filling out addresses. It doesn't make any sense.
Do you, when you bond, I mean, are you trying to pick up extra information, whether it's birthdays or kids, or I just did an interview with someone that was just great. And he has all his people get email addresses when they come in. I
do get their email address.
Yeah, I think, which is very neat.
And I'll go through some more of the schedule. And that comes into here. I get the email address. I do have a Clients for Life program where, I send them information not only by email, but by mail. I mean, if you have the email address of every one of your clients, it's very inexpensive to do, your past client database marketing.
Mm-hmm. What do you use for your database? Do you use ACT?
We use ACT.
Mm-hmm, right. Which is really, of all the people, I said so many times, it get a little boring for people listening to this, but ACT is, without question, the preeminent module that's used. I've only run across one person that even used Goldmine, so, I mean, that's really where it's at. Do you also use something like Arch Telecom or Echo Effect or something?
I use Epifect, and, a lot of people know what that is. That's
sure.
the mass voicemail, and and obviously the key to leaving that message is always leave it. When you're talking, it's in singular, not plural. I had a coach that left me messages for a year, had no idea it was Epifect until he said a word like "you guys," and then I said, "What do you mean, you guys?" And he said, "Well, I'm talking to 100 people at once." Oops. So the real key is making sure that you never make the message sound like it's going to more than one person. And every single Friday, it's on my time blocking schedule. I basically have on here to Epifect all my realtors, all my corporate accounts, basically email all my realtors, and it's pretty powerful because they're all getting a message from me every Friday before the weekend, letting them know that I'm available, asking them for new business. And I do actually 3 Epifects because I really break down my realtor list are my best realtors, my realtors that use me once in a while, and the realtors that know me but don't use me that I'm hitting on to get new business.
Sure.
And so all the messages are different.
That's interesting. I like that.
The first message is, "Hey guys, it's me, it's John. I'll be working all weekend. If you need me, give me a call on my cell phone. I'm available for you." It's more casual. It's friendly. They know me real well. The B agents are, I haven't gotten a deal in a while. We've done some business in the past. What's going on? Is there anything I can work on for you? And then the C message is like, "My name is John Bianchi. I left you a message last week. If your lender is not available for you this weekend, I will be available. I'm looking for the opportunity to assist you and help you. Hope you've been receiving my letters and flyers and, marketing ideas." And the key to that is consistency. Every single Friday. And part of this is that you're actually proving yourself to the realtor without doing business with them. I mean, here's realtors you're hitting on. I have 150 on my C list that I'm marketing that are the top 150 in North San Diego County. They get the message every Friday same time, and what I'm showing them is how consistent I can be in my tactics to get them. So obviously I must be consistent in my business once I start working with them.
Well, you've used the consistency word 3 times.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting about it is that something that going back to my early days, and as time went on, I came to realize that the primal fear of any realtor in dealing with a loan officer is that they may not be there, and that they're not going to be consistent. And what do I mean by that is that when loan officers start off, they, typically they might start calling on 20 offices, and, then the manager says, cut it down to your top 10 and then down to the top 7. And so realtors have it bred into them to be fearful of new loan originators until they have proved themselves and been consistent and keep coming back, and they know they're, not going to drop dead next week. And you know how it is. You go in there, and I'll be your buddy, and I'll be your friend, and I'll be there every. Then, of course, then they disappear.
Exactly. Some of the other things I do are, I have a team. So these things I used to do on my own. As you become more successful, you have your team do it for you. I have a couple of junior LOs, and they do open houses on weekends, where we obviously offer that to our top agents.
I like that. Let's talk about that.
Well, we call our top agents, and we ask them at the beginning of the week, do you have any open houses, any hot properties you want us to hold open for you this weekend? And they call back, yeah, I got a great property. Well, the good properties get a lot of traffic. So one of my junior LOs will go and sit that property. We'll basically take the sign-up of all the new buyers that come through the schedule, and everyone signs in, and we pursue those people as, new applications. Realtors also come through, and they're like, wow, you're doing this open house for this realtor. We'd love to have that. Maybe we should be working with you.
That's a great idea. I mean, that's the first time I've heard of it. Everything's been done before in this world, right? But, it just has never been articulated in the probably 100 interviews that I've done at this point, and that's a wonderful one.
Now, the other loan officer, my other junior LO, is out on Saturday. He's not doing the open houses. He's going to the open houses. So in our market, they drive through, all the streets and look for open houses. If you drive down the main streets, you're going to see open house signs everywhere. So they'll actually hit 20 open houses on a Saturday, meet 20 new realtors, and some that we already have. What's nice about an open house is that if you're a new, loan officer, if you're a loan officer trying to get more business, realtors have a lot of time at open houses. You can get a one-on-one appointment right there on the spot. You walk in, they're busy showing the house. When they finish, they're like, hi, and they're kind of bored. Great, let me introduce myself. Let me sit down and tell you a little bit about myself. And you actually get to meet a lot of new realtors that way. Or you get to meet their assistants. And, the key to a top producer is always a good assistant. I always tell people, if you're calling on a top realtor and you can't get them, but all you can do is get their assistant, take their assistant out to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Let their assistant tell you all about them and how to get them, and work it that way. But that's how we do the open house schedule, and we'll do it every weekend. We'll be out there getting, the new open houses and then sitting an open house for a realtor. And that's how we generate more business on the weekends.
It's kind of funny as we're talking about this. It kind of comes back to me in my days when I was a realtor. How few loan officers actually go out and do this kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they get busy. Refis are great. Rates are low. I have a couple good realtors that give me good business. I really don't need to do all this stuff. And it's true. I mean, you can be happy with what you're doing. But, one realtor gets out of the business, the rates go up, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling. And these are all the things, believe it or not, that I used to do on my own in my 7-day work week to get business. And that's how I was able to accelerate my business so fast. Now I continue to do these things. I just can't, I don't want to do all the things I did before, so I have a team that helps me do it. I do a flyer every single week. I've been doing that for 10 years. There's a service in our county where you just pay a flat fee. I don't go to offices and drop flyers in boxes. That's a waste of time. You just print 3,000 copies, and there's a service for $100 that will actually deliver to every single office and put it in every real estate box for you. So I just have that done as a consistent basis. I actually go out once a week, too, and this is something a good idea for loan officers. I go out once a week, and when I go to the real estate offices, that's done on Friday afternoons. I go to real estate offices. They're a little bit more casual on Fridays. It's a little easier to get in, I find. And I deliver marketing ideas. Today we're delivering thank yous. The first week of every month, we deliver thank yous to all the realtors from the previous month. And we deliver, whether it's champagne bottles or apple juice, sparkling champagne, whatever those things are. We'll deliver a thank you. We'll have a helium balloon attached to it from the Bianchi team. Thank you for the transaction. We write them a card. And you'll go into an office and you'll see 4 or 5 helium balloons in different cubicles standing up. And so do all the other realtors.
Yeah, that's great. And not only that, when you're walking in with something, you're not going to have someone at the front desk that puts that hand up and says, whoa, boy.
Right. Usually they'll go, I'm here to deliver a gift. They're like, well, do you know where their desk is? And I put it on their desk and I leave. Or they'll say, sure, and they put it on their desk, which is fine, either way, because my advertisement is sitting there in the helium balloon throughout the office. So every first week of every month we deliver the thank yous. And then on Friday afternoons during the month, we go out and deliver marketing ideas. So that's part of the marketing plan. We also will prepare things like, I don't know if all the places in the country have it, but we have MLS here, and I think there's a MLS in most cities.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, sure.
Well, I have a marketing program, and there's another person in San Diego does it, but basically my computer is hooked up to the MLS. I can print every day all the current listings in San Diego that come up on the new listings.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I have a direct marketing program that says congratulations on listing your home. And by the way, if you're going to be shopping finance, please give me an opportunity.
This is really good.
It goes, now you got to believe this. Everybody who's selling a home that's where the business is, right? That's a potential home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's 4,000 listings in your market, those are the 4,000 people that are most likely to buy a home soon because they're going to sell their home.
Now, in our area, in the Washington metropolitan area and down where I am, they have what's called MRIS. Same thing as multiple lists. It's very, very sophisticated and very good. And to be able that, you would have to actually get a real estate license so you could join the.
We have a real estate license, a broker's license. We've joined.
Well, my point is that this is a good idea for loan officers out there. If there's an incentive, it's just another reason to go out and get a real estate license. I used to make all my loan officers, any loan officer worked for me, had to get a real estate license. I paid for it, but they had to get it.
Well, I think it's a great thing to have. A lot of times, if you're working for a bank nowadays or a mortgage banker, you're not required to have one because you're under the Department of Corporations. But I have one, and I do try to encourage all the LOs to have one. And the reason we have them here on my team is because to do an open house and actually hold a flyer and quote a sales price, you got to have a license.
You better believe it.
So you can't be out there doing those open houses and handing out the flyers that the realtor's giving you on the house without being licensed.
Well, you've raised something else too. As I was listening to this, I made an assumption. We all know the first 3 letters of assume. I made an assumption that your loan officers were actually sitting out on the home with a realtor. But you've gone it one step further. Once the license, it all makes perfect sense to me. I have a real estate license too, but it all makes perfect sense to me that if you are licensed, which means you have to be attached to some office, even if it's just on a wall, that gives you the ability to hold an open house and to give out permission. If you don't have a license for those loan officers that are out there listing that may not be up to the same level as you are on this, as far as the rules and regs, you need to have a real estate license. Otherwise, in a real estate office, you have what are called real estate assistants that may be licensed or unlicensed. But if you're determined to be an assistant, then there's certain things that you can't do. You cannot you can't even take someone out to an open home or open a home to show them. It's a violation of the license laws.
Well, and that's one of the values. You can go out with a realtor to the open house. That's great. But you have a realtor that wants to hold 2 this weekend, and there's only one of them. You're adding a lot of value there. Now they're able to open another open house that they weren't able to before because you're going to go to that one for them, and it works really good. It's a great thing.
It's a great idea. Makes absolute sense. And today, when there's such a hot real estate market, and you have some of your better agents that may have 4 or 5 listings, you know how realtors are. They're always going to their clients, their listings, and trying to show them that they're working hard and doing new things. And this is just great because the realtor gets a benefit, and not just the loan officer. The realtor becomes your buddy in this because you're holding an open house for them, which the people love.
Right. Well, and back to the MLS, mailer I was doing, the letter goes out congratulating them on a new listing. and then basically solicits them for, to call me to be one of the lenders they talk to. When it goes into pending, another letter goes out congratulating on the house selling, and basically it kind of heats up a little bit, saying, now you're definitely going to be making a decision on the loan. Give me a shot. Then another letter goes out, if it goes back on market, saying, for some reason, your house sold and the deal fell apart and you're back on the market, check me out for bridge loans and 100% financing. Maybe you don't need to sell your home. So I have 3 different letters that hit them based on, how they're being entered in the MLS.
And this is all triggered for those listening out there. Let me just make an assumption. This is probably triggered because you have certain fields set up in ACT.
Yep.
And things where that you can trigger off certain things. Like in ACT, you have that ID status as one field that you can trigger off. But there's a lot of things you go into ACT and you hit lookup, and then you hit the category field that you want to do, and it'll just pull all your clients up just like that.
Is that what you do? No,
yeah.
I'm not a computer expert.
That's essentially what you're doing, though.
I can do what I want to do on the computer and learn what I want to learn, and really I hired a computer specialist to come in and program the computer to read the MLS so that basically on a daily basis we fire it up, we push a button, and it reads all new listings, it reads all new pendings on a daily basis, and it automatically mail merges the letter. So it's on autopilot, and then we just send it out. That's how I have to have it to be able to work it.
Yeah, right. That's great. Hey, listen, I learned a long time ago. I used to sell computers for IBM when I was a kid, and I learned a long time ago that you don't have to know how to program. You just need to be able to look over somebody's shoulder and say, "This is what I want you to do. You do it."
Absolutely.
And
you got to have the vision, know what you want it to do, and then someone who knows how to program it can do that for you.
Right. Exactly. Any other ideas that kind of come to mind?
I do more things. I do.
We got about 10 minutes. So.
Okay, I do financing signs, such as every time I get a deal, I have like a realtor sign that goes in the grass. It's a very inexpensive one. They're about $20 each. It says the financing provided on this property is being provided by North American Mortgage, John Bianchi, and my number. And I have different versions of it. For below market financing, and call John Bianchi, North American Mortgage. And what happens is every time I have a buyer, I call the listing agent and say, basically, can I put my sign up underneath your sign just saying I'm doing the financing? And, 20% of the time they have a problem with it because of their ego and they don't want anybody else out there. But 80% of the time it's fine. Then my appraiser has all these signs. And when he goes out to the property, he puts it on the lawn. And I got that idea from driving past, commercial properties where it said, this project is financed by so-and-so bank.
This is so good.
So if I have 90 deals going and I can get 60 or 70 signs out there that's saying this home is being financed by myself, I got realtors that are driving by in the community, I got buyers that are driving by, and they all see my sign. The other thing I do is I create a small sign that slides right above my realtor sign. So all my realtors that work with me, I want to put a sign on their listing. If I have realtors that have 20 and 30 listings, I need to be on that listing too. So right above their signpost, there's a slot, and I slide my little sign in there that says, financing, 100% financing available on this property, call me. Or below market financing available for this property, call me. So I have different, things that I say, and then I have them posted on all their signs. And so I have those signs with the sign writer company. Most of the realtors here in San Diego use Champion Signs. And so I have a huge stack of signs with them, and they know who my realtors are. So when the realtor orders a sign to be set up, my sign writer automatically goes on it. And so that's another thing that I do with the sign writers.
You know what? I never, in the area that I live in, I live on the lower eastern shore, which has a lot of rural, a lot of waterfront, and some pretty wealthy areas. There's a county spitting distance from me, Talbot County, that's quite wealthy. Do you know I've never seen anybody do that on the sign?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great marketing. The other thing I do is once a month, I do a happy hour. And, what's interesting is that you can go to a local place that's very popular. Here in San Diego, it's called Crazy Burro. It's up in Carlsbad. It's in the area where I do my business. And, it's dollar drinks, and, it's $1, and you got a big buffet, right? All you can eat. So I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get together with one of the top title reps in my market. And we're going to sponsor a networking, party every single month for all the offices. And at $1 a drink and $1 for food, I'm sponsoring everything. It's costing me $200 a month and $200 for the title rep. And now I have 300 realtors every month, eating tacos and, having a beer. And I'm able to network with new people, and especially the people at Title Rep, because the Title Rep's out there every single day marketing. And this is the way they can help get more people in front of me. So that's a monthly basis.
This is, what's so good about that one? They're all good. I mean, these are like you're just tumbling these things out of your mouth, one better than the other. What's so good about it is there's not a lot of maintenance once it takes on a life of its own.
No. Here's another one for you. I do this every month, and I pick one of the last 3 days of the month. So you can do it on the 28th, the 29th, 30th. For some reason, people have in their mind that it's less expensive to close at the end of the month, and that's the most stressful time.
Oh, sure.
Even though they realize that they're paying where they're at or they're paying here, it's the same thing.
Right.
But the escrow companies or the closing companies, in other parts of the country, title companies, everyone's busy. They're swamped at the end of the month. They barely get a chance to eat lunch. And so what I found is that I'm going to pick the top escrow companies in my market, the top 5 that basically get the majority of the business. And you could do that in your area, the title companies or whatever. And then I'll walk in with a big cooler full of drinks, a big, huge sandwich from Subway or pizzas at the end of the month at 11:30 in the morning. And I walk in, they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "You're a lender. You don't do anything for escrow companies." And I deliver the lunch and the food, and they just think I'm the hero because no one really remembers them. It's kind of like a food chain in our business. The realtor's in charge. They kick around the loan officer kicks around the title guy, and it's all this food chain.
It all flows downhill.
It all flows downhill. And, you go out to lunch with a title rep, and he doesn't ever expect a lender to pay. They think they're going to pay. And I reverse it on them. But I basically, when I ep-effect all those agents, I also ep-effect title reps and escrow officers with things like, "It's John Bianchi, I'm calling you on Friday. Do you have any escrows that are falling out? Any deals going south? Lenders that are dropping the ball? Do you need me to step in? Can you refer me to the realtor?" I can't tell you how many calls I get from escrow officers saying, "Hey, I just gave your name to Susie, a Cole banker. They were supposed to close yesterday. She's really upset at her lender. Can you step in and save the deal?" And every escrow officer and title rep, they know when the deals are going south. They know when a realtor's upset with a loan officer. It's a great opportunity to step in and meet new people because you're working and networking with them too. And so that's a great tool that everyone should be doing.
I think this is wonderful, and we're really at the end of our interview time, and the ideas have just been incredible. There's probably 5 or 6 really original ideas that you have talked about today. I mean, there's no wonder that you're doing the volume that you're doing. Just doing the thing. If loan officers just did the things you talked about today, they'd be making a lot of money on a consistent basis. Anyway, I can't thank you enough. I'd like the part about the humility and driving the truck, and I'm just kind of wondering about, and the fact that you're generous and kind. I'm just wondering, kind of at the end of this, that maybe you would even feel better if you bought me a Mercedes, and I could drive it for you.
Mercedes is in the garage. I just drive that when I'm not working.
Well, if you could just lend it to me, just send it on over, you would feel better, and you could drive the truck, and both of us would get some benefit out of this.
Sounds good.
Anyway, well, look, I want to thank you so much. It was wonderful talking to you, and best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, John.